Ricciardo Calafiori, they're saying the Nesta region, the Maldini region, and certain Arsenal fans are saying he will win us the title. That certain Arsenal fan is sat right next to me. Harry's backing Calafiori to get Arsenal the title.
I said nothing of the sort. I'm not tempting fate this early in the season. The season hasn't even started yet. But this is a great signing, I think, for Arsenal. You know, you look at not just what Calafiori did at the Euros in terms of performances, because I feel like a lot of people have jumped on the Calafiori train off the back of some good performances at the Euros. But actually, if you go back to the start of last season, that was when he really started to have an impact at Bologna, part of a defence that was very, very good under Thiago Motta, who's now moved on to bigger things at Juventus. But you think about the way that Calafiori plays, how aggressive he is in possession, out of possession, the fact that he's incredibly confident. You could argue that he makes a few too many mistakes in terms of giving the ball away, but I think in time, Mikel Arteta is going to be able to coach that out of him and get him to the point where he needs to be. But for like 40 odd million quid for a player who had a really high stock going into the Euros because Bologna made the Champions League, but then went on to perform at the competition and really raise his stock even further, I think is a really, really good deal.
I think the biggest thing about this deal is, and we've spoken about this in a separate video, is that for Arsenal to win the league, they need the 0.1%, the 0.2%. And that left-back area has been a constant issue. You've had Zinchenko, who, if you think back to the Liverpool game where Salah came inside him, like, left-back can't let that happen. Maybe Gabriel should go closer, etc., etc. Xhaka leaving meant there was a bit of a void in there. Tomiyasu comes in, or Kiwior, they're essentially actual defenders that just want to defend wide. Now, Calafiori is very proficient in possession. And he's very, very good at stepping in and pinching the ball, like you saw for one of Italy's goals, actually, where he pinches it and then plays a 1-2 and then plays them in. I look at that and go, they're searching for the tiny percentages. That feels like a tiny percentage.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think if you look at the back four, if he fits in and if he starts to play well, you've got Calafiori, then you've got Saliba, Gabriel and Ben White, who's absolutely exceptional as well. That is a fantastic back four. And they always say, you know, attack will win your games, defence will win your leagues. And I think if he can step into Zinchenko's position and if he can understand the Premier League quickly, which I think when you think about Italian signings, particularly midfielders and defenders, they do slot into the Premier League quite quickly. They are obviously known for their defensive acumen. So I think if he can slot in quickly and if he can understand exactly how Arteta wants to play, he's a fantastic signing, because I remember us speaking about Zinchenko when he left City for Arsenal, and I just think like he's not good enough at defending. He's just not. What he gives you in attack is not offset by what he doesn't give you in defence, and I felt that as a City fan, and I know that you probably feel the same as an Arsenal fan. So I think Arteta's highlighted a weakness, probably the only weakness in the 11. He's reinforced it and strengthened it now. I think really, really good position to be going into the league.
I like him a lot, man. I said it during the Euros, I said it when I watched Bologna last season. I mean, there is the one caveat, I think, that Thiago Motta's Bologna really outperformed their expectation. Yeah. And within that, Joshua Zirkzee, who's gone to Manchester United, also outperformed his expectation. That could come down to good management, potentially. A lot of people have spoken about that. There's a few other deals that haven't happened yet, but at the time of recording, they've been rumoured. Pedro Neto to Chelsea, 60 million. I mean, I love him as a player. I think he's unbelievably talented. But Chelsea being the destination makes me worried about what we're actually going to see of this guy.
You look at the chaos at Chelsea and you just wonder how anybody can succeed there. And I know we talk a lot about Cole Palmer and what a hit he's been. But that's in spite of the environment, not because of the environment. Pedro Neto, I think for a while has needed a step up from Wolves. And Chelsea does represent that. But I think the question mark that's always been around Pedro Neto is, can he stay fit enough for long enough? Yeah. And I think that's why some of the clubs that have been rumoured to want to sign him in the past have been reluctant to part ways with the big money that's been asked. You know, we're talking upwards of 50 million quid is what Wolves have been asking for in the past. I don't know the details of this potential move to Chelsea at the time of recording, and I don't know if it's going to happen, but you get the feeling, don't you, that Chelsea are one of the few clubs that would put that kind of amount of money down to bring him in. Unbelievable talent, rapid. When he gets his head down, he's really difficult to stop. Bit of a throwback in terms of what wingers used to be, and I like that. But will he be the guy that succeeds at Chelsea? I don't think it's. I think there's so many that struggle to succeed there, and I just look at that position. I think they're so stacked there.
Yeah,
this isn't a crucial need for Chelsea yet. Here we are talking about him going there.
I think Chelsea, when they sign players at the moment, on the older FIFAs, it come up saying this player's been transfer listed. And even if you didn't need him, you liked him. and you went, I'll have another striker.
Yeah.
They're in that situation. Pedro Neto became available, and they said, we'll get him so no one else can. And now they're in a situation where I think if he, because we're talking about the most impactful signings, I wonder if he went to, I don't know, United, for example, you go, that is a proper signing. At Chelsea, you're going, what are they doing?
But the thing is, when we're talking about him, like, he's a fantastic player. He's been linked with City. He's been linked with United. He's obviously got really good pedigree. But we're talking about an impactful signing. Will he even make an impact at Chelsea? We don't know if he'll ever get off the bench. They're absolutely stacked at right wing. We don't know if Maresca wanted him or wants him. We have no idea whether he's going to play or what role he's going to play in the league. And I think that's the problem with Chelsea at the moment. It's actually really hard to get excited about any of the signings that they make, because on paper you're looking at players and you all do the whole like YouTube compilation thing of some of these Brazilian players and you think, oh, amazing, I can't wait to see them in the Prem. Well, will we ever see them in the Prem? Will they be playing out of position? You know, it's really hard to get excited about it. But he's a good player, very good player.
You're talking about excitement. I've got to talk about Martin Zubimendi. For, I think, the last 5 transfer windows, I've been on Sky and I've been pushing for this deal. And I don't know anyone at Real Sociedad, but clearly they've been watching. Because Martin Zubimendi is heavily linked to Liverpool. It's the one spot in that midfield that Liverpool need to fill. And Harry, you said before we started recording, you want to talk about this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at Zubimendi a lot over the last couple of years because he's not just been linked with Liverpool, he's been linked with Arsenal quite a bit as well. And obviously Mikel Arteta's connections to the Basque country have always meant that story has been at the forefront of people's minds. It looks like it's much more likely that he ends up at Liverpool. But I've got a concern about Zubimendi. I think on the ball, he's fantastic. I think he's really, really good. And I think in that Sociedad team where they ask him to sit at the base of midfield and pull the strings, he's perfectly suited. But I wonder if physically in the Premier League, he gets eaten up a little bit. I do worry about that. I watched him in the Champions League on a couple of occasions last season, and I thought that the game bypassed him a little bit when they came up against more physical opposition. So I think he could be a really good addition for Liverpool, but you need to have the right setup around him. You need to have the right midfield with him. And only if you get the environment right can Zubimendi thrive. If you don't, I think you could be looking at him the way that we used to look at Mikel Arteta when he used to play, where get him on the ball and he looks brilliant, but ask him to go right and left and close people down and win physical battles. I think he falls a little bit short there.
I disagree. But soon
well, you would.
I love Zubimendi. I think the thing about the physical side, I looked at his numbers and I don't think they actually really stack up brilliantly. But one thing I do think is his anticipation and reading of the game is really good. And I do feel like because we're in the Premier League and everyone goes like, physicality is a big thing, and I do agree that Man City and Arsenal are generally very physical sides. You do need physical midfielders, but then you've got a machine in Szoboszlai who can add that physicality for you, and McAllister, who played as a six and was completely fine. But I'm sure we'll talk about Zubimendi plenty more times. West Ham have done a lot of business, bringing in Fulkrug, Crescencio, Somerville as well. They look very decent.
Yeah, I think they've probably done the best transfers of the season so far. It's difficult when West Ham buy a striker because that number 9 since Mikel Antonio has been a little bit cursed, hasn't it? But 15 goals in 46 games last year, pretty much a goal in every 3 games in the Bundesliga. And he is a powerhouse, and you can just tell just from looking at him, he's that kind of striker. He's going to want to get on the end of things. And I think the fact that they've kind of paired that signing with Crescencio Somerville, who's an electric winger who'll be getting the balls into the box. And I wasn't that enamoured when Julian Lopetegui got announced as West Ham boss. I thought he was quite similar to David Moyes, and I thought they might have gone in a different direction. But the signings that they've made, getting Max Kilman, who obviously he will have worked with at Wolves as well, I think they've done absolutely exceptional business this year, and I really do expect them to thrive. I think you can tell a lot about how good a player is when they get transferred out of your side. And the fume from Leeds fans on Twitter says how much they rate Crescencio Somerville. And we could all see it every time we saw him play. An electrifying footballer. And there's no way that he won't be able to step up to the plate in the Premier League. And I think he's at the perfect club for it as well.